What you really have for the daily internet are forums, social media, and adult content. That is constantly getting uploaded to every minute, every second of every day. That is what we download every day. I think for our clients, they're not as concerned about that space because the reputational harm between two people talking, and sending messages to each other about it isn't as significant as an Instagram post with 3 million views on it. Like that can be very damaging. They're really concerned about the public web, we'll call it, and less concerned about, what kind of text messages get sent.
I think there are two barriers to entry for anyone in a business. One barrier to entry is essentially a customer base. If I have a very large customer base, it's a barrier to entry for another guy who wants to enter into this business. And the other barrier is a technology barrier.
Entertainment is a very nuanced space, and that's where our bread is buttered. That's where the majority of our...
So hello everyone, here we are with BetterTech and hosting Luke Arrigoni today. He's a founder and CEO of a tech startup called Arrigoni. A tech startup called Lurty, and it's in an exciting space. The online kind of a reputation management. But let's hear it from Luke that what the startup does and where he's taking this, and then some more. So welcome on the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here. Also, funny enough, you said the tech company named Arrigoni. The last company I did for consulting, I called it Arricore. So you're not even far off. Like the laziness of naming the last company, basically some version of my last name. I've actually done that before in a funny way. But let's talk about Loti.
Yeah. No, that's wonderful actually. And I actually looked at your last company, and that was part of my question list to really find out about that as well. So why don't you take initial few minutes and help us understand a bit about your background and what does your current startup Loti does, and obviously your former company Arrico.
Of course. So I have a math degree. So my whole kind of academic background is technical, and probably about 10 or 15 years ago, I started trying to find the line of best fit, which is the funniest way to say AI now, right? But back then, it wasn't called AI. It was just there's strategy developer. There's all these kinds of bizarre and funny names for the guy that understands math that can load up a database and try to figure out how to predict something, right? And I did that under Arricore for 10 plus years, and I had a small staff, 15 or so folks, and we went around to a bunch of large companies like AT&T and UPS and Goldman Sachs and others, and helped build their machine learning pipelines, build their AI programs. Because probably maybe 7 or so years ago, the whole world kind of dove in on AI, and we realized that was the future as well, and so we committed and did that. And then a few years ago, we got an opportunity to do partial face recognition for a client, and we kept the intellectual property rights out of it. And we figured, well, what we'll do is we'll point this towards the internet, try and make a big map of where everyone is on the internet. And then we'll also build in the ability to delete things. So be able to send a notice out to the site to remove it. And we called this Loti. And that's the thing that kind of took off. We don't do any consulting anymore. As of a few years ago, we kind of all converted over as a team into doing just Loti. And Loti downloads the daily internet. So everything that gets uploaded today, we process, and we look for faces and voices for our clients. And then there's these rules that say, if it's on an explicit site, take it down. If it's an imposter, take it down. If it's a deepfake, take it down. And we'll go through and execute on these rules for our clients.
So it's interesting that you mentioned that Lurty downloads the daily internet. Assuming internet is a pretty big thing, and Google and companies like those, they run huge data centers. So how much percentage of the web do you do you scan every day? How much can you get behind the authentication walls, and how you do that? It's fascinating.
Yeah. So this is a great question. All right. Of the internet, what do we actually get to lay eyes on? Well, if you made a WordPress site today and just put it up, and you didn't put it in the Google Index, didn't tell anyone about it, I also would not be able to find it. Right. So there's lots of little orphan sites on the internet that make up a small percentage of the internet, but no one ever sees them. We don't see them either. And then there's the static internet, which is a WordPress page that your dentist has. right? Some kind of simple site to explain the bakery or the butcher shop or something like that.
The
It's Small
public
Business
internet.
America. They never get updated, right? They
Right.
largely stay static. And
Yeah,
that
yeah,
makes up
stop.
a huge swath of the internet. And we
Mhm.
download that on a monthly basis because even monthly is pretty fast. The reality is, I could probably go a year or 2 years before actually getting that, and those sites really never change.
Right.
But so you have that the monthly on that, and then what you really have for the daily internet are forums, social media, and adult content. That is constantly getting uploaded to every
Yeah.
minute, every second of every day. That is
Mhm.
what we download every day. So we
Okay.
do social media, we do the adult web, we do other kind of high threat areas where we download those, and even to process that every day costs us an absolute fortune. We like wake up a bunch of GPUs at night and eat all the GPUs on the West Coast to try and process it. Like it's an undertaking to be able to do that.
Right. And how do you, I mean, uh, it's one thing to say, I mean, and as you have said it right, the latest news would come on a social media and forums and places where people generally interact. Uh,
Right,
a lot of interaction has now actually moved from these social medias to messaging apps as well.
right.
A good bunch of internet, I would say, and reputation lives there. I mean, your reputation kind of ramped down pretty fast if it's on some if you're on an instant messenger and people are just forwarding something about you. So talk to me. I mean, how do you get behind the typical authentication mechanisms to see what someone has posted? Because assumingly, I mean, people have their logins and credentials, and it's not public
Yeah.
info.
So for some sites, they give us like direct access type feeds, but for no DM sites do we have access to that. So like the Signal, WhatsApp, Telegram, that kind of thing, iMessage, we're not able to go through any of that. But I would make the case that you probably wouldn't want anyone to be able to go through that.
Mhm.
You wouldn't want a third party to ever be able to touch
Yeah,
that.
yeah, for
So
sure.
we are the same. We also cannot go through that. But I think for our clients, they're not as concerned about that space because the reputational harm between two people talking and sending messages to each other about it isn't as significant as an Instagram post with
Mhm.
3 million views on it. Like that can
Right,
be very damaging, right? So
right.
they're really concerned about the public web, we'll call it, and less concerned about, how what kind of text messages get sent.
Right. And yeah, I mean even the messages that are getting being forwarded and coming back are essentially some copy and version of the social media. I mean the news comes out on a social media and then people start forwarding it and so on and so forth. So how do you get it? I mean you claim that you can get it removed or let your client monetize it or do some version of it. So how do you, I mean, in this world where people say quote unquote, it's a free speech, though I doubt in many dimensions. But why would, if somebody is publishing something on the Facebook and it is, let's say it's got copied to hundreds of thousands of users, why would they take it down just because you said it?
There's a few reasons. The first is if it's explicit content at all, that's not allowed to be up. There's like
Yeah,
revenge
that
porn
is
laws,
their
that kind of thing.
policy.
That's it.
You can,
And then the
you
second thing is false endorsement. So if it's a deep fake of someone on, Facebook, or if it's deep fake of a popular person and they're selling a product on Facebook, Facebook will want that to come down because it's harmful for their users. And then there's
okay.
also things that are just breaking the site's policies, like bullying policies and hate speech type policies that
Mhm,
it could violate. But probably
mhm.
the final part would just be a right of publicity, which is if
Right.
they're running ads on the side of it and they're using your likeness without your authorization, there's a solid case there that basically these platforms are monetizing you, and that's not exactly legal to do with right of publicity, depending on what state you're
So
in
maybe
the
putting
United
in
States.
an image of Taylor Swift in one way or the other, and then start to monetizing
That's
alongside.
right.
Yeah.
And so there's some things that are subjected to like First Amendment that don't need to come down and shouldn't come down. And our clients never ask us to pull those down. But a
Hmm.
lot of the stuff, it's like false endorsements or it's AI generated stuff to try and make ad money. Like it's kind of a nefarious content list. And platforms do work with us to remove that because they don't want it there either.
Right. Right. So seems like you're also kind of equally one of your other customer could really be the intelligence agencies. I mean, I am as a celebrity about careful about my reputation, but there will be companies who would want to know something about someone. Yeah.
Yeah, we work hard not to be a like a surveillance app.
Mm,
We don't really want other people to upload someone else's photo per se
sure.
and then get like where they're all at on the internet. So
Hmm.
we work hard to try and avoid those kinds of things. Like so what for example, to be able to sign up for our consumer app, you have to do a liveness check where there's a deep fake check. And so you can't just like take a recorded video of someone's face and put it up. We like give you random instructions on how to move your head. Like everyone gets different instructions. And so that combined with a deepfake detector is typically enough to make sure that you can't make an account for me per se. You can only use your real face to do so.
So, that was kind of a line of question around your business. Now let's get a little bit under the hood, talking about the tech that you're using to build it. You mentioned that you're using heavily AI to build this. So talk to us a little bit more about what is this AI? I mean, in this day and age, if you put a dot AI after your name, you can actually get a funding. But I'm sure that you must be doing something pretty nice and deep tech. So talk to us about more about the AI stuff that you're doing.
Yeah, you're not wrong, right? Like it pretty much every AI company on earth just says, I do AI, and then someone like, let me write you millions of dollars of checks, right? Like that seems to be the going thing.
Yeah.
But interestingly enough, and our first round, our seed round was very difficult because we weren't building a new GPT, we weren't building a new large language model, we weren't doing anything sexy. I was telling people that like, hey, I am raising money on doing face recognition across like the adult web. Like it was like they're like, oh, this is not a good idea, right? Like it was no one wanted to touch that with a 10-foot pole. And
Mhm.
then I ended up closing that round with people that saw what the real bigger vision was around our company, and they realized, oh, well, that's a necessary part to be able to do the big thing you want to do, Luke. You have to actually do this thing right now.
Mhm.
And so what I think was really interesting was it was a communication problem. Like it was my fault, right? Like I was communicating the tactical here and now and not communicating enough of where the long vision was.
Mhm.
So what kind of AI work do we do? Yes, we do face recognition and voice recognition, and we do deepfake detection, and we do impersonation detection. We have
Mhm.
about 40 different models. They work in like a constellation across about 6 different primary services. And these different primary services we can kind of like put together like Lego blocks to develop products. We have like a consumer product and a celebrity
Mhm.
product, and they're just like a mix and match of these different services of do you need face? Do you need takedown?
Mhm.
Do you need an animation detection, right? Depending on
Right.
what you're doing, you might need a different one of these services. So we've built our AI program where you have a bunch of models, like foundational models, like dozens of them that roll into services. And there's only
Mhm.
a few of those. And then those services roll into applications. And so
Right.
as we add more models to the bottom, they end up trickling into our ecosystem where we can reuse them more efficiently.
So model is essentially your technical capability, and once you add a model, that capability is available, then you model it as a service, so you can use it from an application layer and so on.
Yeah, what's really interesting is we hired a new head of product, and we have such strong technical chops. We came from a data science background. Our whole
Yeah.
team is run by data scientists. And he said, I think there's a little bit of the tail wagging the dog here, Luke. Our head of product told me that like basically your data science team builds something and then like sells it to customers. And versus like the other way around, which is something we've made a process change on. But initially, like we basically like would build cool stuff, right? Like, wow, we can do this cool thing, and then we'd sell it out, we'd show customers. And of course we've made changes since then. But that is, yes, to your point, we basically our technical capabilities came from the cool stuff we could build in data science that we thought our customers would like.
I mean, you're not the first one who is saying that whenever an engineer generally builds a company, they build their product first and they feel that the product is so technically cool, it will sell itself. And whenever you bring in product or sales or marketing guys to the team, they will try to sell first, find a fit, and then build up products.
Correct. And there's some
And
balance between those, right? And like
yeah.
my job is to try and balance the two. And so I do tend to lean towards the engineer fault, right?
Yeah.
And but yes, I'm also have good ears, and when I hear someone tell me, "Hey, Luke, you're kind of messing up here," I definitely
Yeah.
like listening.
That's interesting. Yeah. But I think I think people who can create a balance, they end up creating a company. Otherwise, I've seen engineers who will
Correct.
build product after product and then just keep shelving it. Or
Yep.
they are still building one feature. If they build it, the product will sell. And after that, that one more feature, if they build it, then the product will sell. So yeah, I think the people who manage to strike a balance eventually get the product ship out. Now, I want to just help get an understanding of the way you are building models and doing it. I was talking to another person, and I was talking to all my guests in my other podcasts as well, that back then, I mean, I mean, I run a professional services company, and what I tell my team that in the age of LLMs, I mean, we used to deliver AI machine learning based projects, and you know the typical pipeline. You see a problem, you build a model for that, you get some data, you label that data, train the model, and then fine tune it, and so on and so forth. Run the all MLOps, and it's going to take about an year to get somewhere. What I tell my team that like, with these LLMs, the AI part has already been done, and we need to do a digital transformation part using this LLM as a brain in between. The question that I'm trying to ask over here is that you mentioned a few times that you're building a lot of models, and these models then transformed into delivering service. While these LLMs, even though they are predominantly a text prediction LLMs, but they are with time they have increasing capabilities, and a lot of things are becoming available as a part of the foundation or a frontier model. And I've seen things in manufacturing. I mean, I've worked with startups who had this model that can detect an anomaly while someone is kind of doing something on the assembly line and figure that out. But you show it to now some LLMs and they will tell you the same. So if I'm an engineer, I have this LLM, I can build a business on top of it. So how much your tech is kind of is a chance or a probability that soon enough, maybe or maybe in a mid future, the LLMs will provide this kind of capabilities out of the box for which you're today building models, and which is your core tech or core differentiator at this point in time.
So I guess the question is, how much am I afraid of like the real big LLM providers, like it
They'll give it.
competing with me, right? Like being able to make these models.
I guess there are two parts to the question. One part is I think there are two barriers to entry for anyone in a business. One barrier to entry is essentially is a customer base. If I have a very large customer base, it's a barrier to entry for another guy who wants to enter into this business. And the other barrier is a technology barrier. So I'm saying if this technology barrier gets removed, then I still understand there may be a business barrier to entry, but how you picked it right. Uh,
Yeah. So
and
how do I
when,
see that?
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
one, the kind of models we build are really far away from LLMs. And
Okay.
so the technology and the data set, most importantly, that they have, and the expertise they have in house around like computational linguists and such, um, they don't really come close to what's needed to do partial face recognition.
Hmm.
So I'm not as worried about that. Let's make it a worry. Let's say that the models themselves are able to
Hypothetically,
make my models, right? Like
yeah.
they're able, like there's then yes, then there becomes a bigger question around like what's the business mode, right? And for us, we have a substantial one, which is it's hard to do business in entertainment. It's hard to do business in tech per se, but especially entertainment. Entertainment is a very nuanced space, and that's where our bread is buttered. That's where the majority of our work comes from, is knowing what that industry is like. And
Hmm.
so we will be successful because we know our customers really well. We know our
Okay.
industry really well. And that industry does not want to go get the cookie cutter off the shelf model made by OpenAI or anyone. They want
Sure.
something that is made by people that are like them, that have their problems. And I think that this idea is probably pervasive in many industries. Like if you're in construction, right? Like you probably have the same. You don't want to go grab OpenAI's ones. You'd rather get the tech company that came from large corporate or large construction industries, right? That understand your real fears and problems. So I think it all comes down to alignment.
Okay.
We as a company, like the humans in our companies, have good alignment with the humans in our industry that we sell to.
Okay.
And I frequently talk to our customers, like go to lunch, discuss with them what they're thinking, where their head is at,
Hmm.
and I think anyone that does that in their industry will end up winning. Will you win like a generalist consumer game? Probably not, right? Like there'll always be like if the average person wants to go and do face recognition, I'm sure OpenAI will have something for them, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But we're not into that game. We're not trying to win over large, broad spectrum tech crowds.
Okay.
We really just want to understand our customers and be really good there.
Sure. And in that AI space, this is probably the last tech questions that I would want to ask. The hallucination and bias, these are the problems in that particular space, and you have to
Correct.
build guardrails against it. What are the technical challenges in your space?
Oh man. I would say scaling our database is significant. So like if you have an LLM, you basically don't have to really maintain a large database. You have a
Yeah.
RAG system most likely, which for people that don't know what that is, it's basically if you as you type things into ChatGPT
Yeah.
or Anthropic or whatever, it kind of remembers what your conversations are. There's a funny little trend where it tells you like ask your LLM provider, whatever it is, about you, right?
Yeah.
And it's kept some record of you, but realistically, it doesn't need to keep a massive database of everyone. Just everyone gets a tiny database. But what we have to do is it's very difficult, but we can't really shard. We can't make logically smaller databases. It's all Homo sapiens. They all look like this, right?
Yeah.
And so we end up having a face recognition system with tens of billions of entries in it. And vector spaces at that size are just so difficult to traverse. They're difficult to hydrate, they're difficult to query, they're difficult to maintain, to add to. You basically have a scale on a database that is so enormous that it itself presents the large problems.
Hmm. Right. Uh, so I think what we are concluding over here that there's enough technical depth in what you do, and you're doing it for a specific industry that kind of it's a niche market and with a niche technology which
Hmm.
probably has its kind of a barrier in a different way that a foundation model will not get there anytime soon, and you have this so this is what I'm getting over here, and
Yes,
obviously
we're going deep and not wide. Yeah.
yeah, and there's a lot of technical advantage that you have as compared to someone who wants to do it now and so on. Talking about your moving from technical to more like a sales and marketing area, talking about your marketing strategy, what has been your kind of go-to-market strategy so far?
So I've been blessed with a great marketing team. The person that leads is someone I used to actually work for. Her name's Holly Elliott. She's wonderful. And really, I think the strategy has been where do our customers right now find truth? Right? Like, is it through press or through social media, through recommendations? And then how do we deploy more content in those spaces? And so it's easy to say, hey, here's $1 million. Let's go buy a bunch of, paid ads like on text or like somewhere else. Or it's easy to say, let's go buy a bunch of TV commercials or billboards or whatever. And what's hard though is to sit down and think, where do our customers find truth? And then how do we participate in that conversation? And we've been doing that. And, like I said, Holly's remarkable. Like our team is really good at that, but it's really that framework around, oh, they go to conferences. Luke, you got to go to this conference. They go to this one specific type of, it's like Variety magazine, so let's make sure that we maintain good relationships with Variety. And, right now we're just now starting to dive into social media. We haven't really done anything on social media. Why? Because our customers really don't use social media. Ironically enough, right? There's celebrities, but like they themselves are not the consumers of social media. But we are now trying to, dip our toes into that. So it's really about if you have limited resources, where do your customers find truth? And then how do you participate in that conversation?
Don't you think that kind of virality and customer acquisition is kind of built right into your service in a way that if I am a celebrity and you send me or my team a potential email that, hey, this is what we have found about you over the net. Would you like to take care of it? I mean, most likely my team would like to take care of it. So,
Yes,
are you
we are
using
doing
this
that
kind of
now.
strategy a lot or what?
Yeah, no, we're building out that with that slightly wider approach. but really it's only because we get it for free. I said earlier, we're not going wide, we're going deep. This is the exception, which is there's an opportunity for us to offer a wider bit to more people, but we're not going to optimize on necessarily like what that looks like. Um, we of course have a product team that wants to make sure that it's a solid product, but yeah, we are actually deploying this out so a lot of people can use it, and we think everyone will really enjoy that. But we're really trying to stay focused on if you have really bad problems, how people are doing like false endorsements or deep fakes or even, other types of content of you, nefarious content, how do we find that for you and take that down? Because I think for a lot of consumers, they'll find our app to be kind of an interesting thing, right? It's like, oh, wow, someone uploaded a picture from me from high school a few years ago or something, right? Like, someone didn't tag me in this little thing here. Oh, there's my LinkedIn profile, that kind of stuff. It'll be more of a curiosity how someone Googles themselves. They'll Loti themselves, right, to try and find where they are. But yeah,
No, so I saw on the side that you're offering a free plan, and normally when companies do that, part of them are trying to execute a PLG strategy. So you're trying to go for a product-led growth that you let people experience the product and then convert them into a paid customer. I'll talk to you about your pricing strategy. But one thing I kind of noticed, I felt, and I just want your opinion on that, that while you're trying to use such a service, there's a kind of a hidden, maybe sometimes threat also looms that am I making myself kind of available or vulnerable? Am I telling the provider of the service that I'm someone who's concerned about his reputation or online presence, and can it work in a different way against me or not? So have you kind of encountered this kind? Is this
no,
a
we don't really have that worry too much. Like we don't think about how that will feel for a consumer for them to. I mean, like that. I guess that's a real thing, right? Like people might wonder, like, oh, do I want to? It's meta thinking, right? It's do I want to tell this provider? Do I want to tell Loti, right, that
yeah,
I have a concern about my persona? I think the reality is we think most people are going to sign up not because they are concerned, but because they're curious. So I think
right,
most people would be safe in that department. We will
right.
not be assuming anyone wants to fix their persona for signing up for us. We think most people are just curious, and I think
Because
that does
because
actually
I've
benefit them.
seen the ranking and rating sites, there's an entire industry around this. So there's a site that gives you a ranking or a rating on something, and then there will be companies who would claim they can boost your rankings, and then there
Yeah,
will be companies who would say they can actually kind of destroy your competitors' ranking. And eventually you figure out if you're a company that is trying to figure out promote yourself, you generally figure out that probably it's a better idea to stay away from it because once you get in, you'll get into the loop of paying someone to improve your ranking, and then someone is getting into the loop of kind of destroying your ranking, and so on and so forth. So,
yeah, no, that's true. Well, we won't do any rankings then. We'll stay away from
yeah,
those.
no,
Yeah,
I get that. So once I'm a free customer and want to convert into the paid model, how's your pricing generally work?
yeah. So we do. It's free if you want to just search the internet for everything, and they do 5 takedowns a month. So by itself, the free product is very valuable, and the 5 roll over every month. So if you're a customer this month and the next month you don't use it, you'll get 10 next month. So there's kind of an advantage to just signing up as soon as possible. So you can
Mhm.
just collect them. But let's say that you need more than 5. You need 30, right? Well, then you would sign up for our pro app. It's $25 a month. It's cancel at any time. It's very consumer friendly. And the only point that we make here is like, look, if you need to burst one month and do extra takedowns on items, go ahead and just cancel the next month and return to being a free customer. We really
Mhm.
don't want to be seen as like war profiteers, right? We don't want to be like, oh wow, this person's having a really bad day with a bunch of crappy stuff on the internet. Let's, stab them and get as much as we can get from them. Like, I feel like that's like a horrible take for a company. Instead, we want to say like, look, you can just upgrade this month, take care of the problem, and downgrade back to free next month. We try
Mhm.
to keep that ethos where even our cancellation is very easy to do within the app.
Okay. All right. So I think quite a good stuff about the tech, the business areas. Two, three rapid questions, and then we'll call it a day. So any aha moment during building this company?
The aha moment. I think we have some pretty big plans that um, that we've recently got some ahas on. I can't share them, so maybe this is a bad thing to lead with. But I would say this: we've had some long-term strategy that's really coming through, and I don't know, a few months ago we did have our aha moment around like, oh, this is how we'll execute on the strategy, and that always
Okay.
feels really good because you kind of know where a target is, but then once you actually see it and visualize in your brain how you'll get to that target, it always feels really amazing. So we've had a couple of those.
Any almost got killed moment?
Almost any what?
Got killed. This is it. This is the
Oh,
last day. We have to turn off the lights.
fortunately not yet. No.
All right,
That's
great.
yeah, we've been pretty fortunate.
Any one learning that you would like to share? Anyone building a startup?
Uh yeah, I would say especially startups now, everyone's trying to do anything in AI. It's probably cheaper for you to buy a GPU and put it in
Uh,
your computer or in one of your engineers' computer than it is for you to rent them off of a cloud platform.
mhm.
So my recommendation is buy your own hardware to start, vet out your models, make sure they work. You can run them all night and it won't cost you extra, except for the power bill, right?
Mhm.
And that's what we did. We had a few pieces of hardware, and now we spend I don't even know how many hundreds of thousands of dollars a month on GPUs, but we started off by just investing in a little pieces of local hardware.
All right. So, and the last question on the funding. So, you raised some funding. So, are you right now a positive ARR company? Are you looking for your next round of funding, or you're looking at organic
So we
growth?
actually just closed our Series A with Khosla.
Okay.
So we actually were gonna be announcing it in about a week. But
All
yeah,
right.
we're feeling pretty good about that.
Wonderful. Congratulations on that. And your entire team is right now based on out of stateside, or you're using a
Oh no, we're
hybrid
very
model?
distributed. We have a lot of people on the West Coast, a couple of people in New York, a few people in the UK, and we have some Eastern Europe, and Pakistan, and India.
All right, wonderful. So, Luke, thank you very much for being on this show with us. I enjoyed talking to
Thank you for
you.
having me.
I hope our audience will as well. They'll see some value. So, uh, hopefully, in a few months' time, we'll get back and check upon your progress again. So,
That would be
let's call
fun.
it a day.
All right. Well, take care. We'll talk soon.